Good morning, everybody. This is Sarah Jo, and she is going to take us through a great streamer pattern tonight. And take it away, Sarah Jo.
Okay, I'm Sara Jo, and this is one of my streamer patterns that I created. And I would say that this is going to be my all-around best fly for all types of species, trout, bass, other stuff sometimes, and just this is the best streamer I have. So we're going to be tying it today. I'll run through the materials. And then we'll start with gotta kind of glue and work on the tail. So we'll start that first and then we'll circle back. So I am a tyer for Daiichi. So I do use Daiichi hooks for the most part. These 2220s. This is a size 4, but I would use a 2, which is why I have a couple, but I only had a couple left, so I didn't have a full pack. But something longer like that. I mean, obviously there's plenty of different styles. There's some Umpqua and Tiemco ones that are literally look the exact same. So I don't think that matters too much. And then I'm going to be using some olive Chinese saddle hackle for the tail. So we'll be messing with that here in a moment. I've got the Sano's Predator wrap in green. And I have an EP sparkle brush here. And then let's see what else I got down here. I need a bigger desk. This is on my list of things to do, is build myself a new bench, but I don't know. It's a big project and I haven't gotten to it. So I've also got barred olive strips, chenille. You could use so many different kinds. You could use a pearl, you could use olive, you could use any type of speckled. This is sculpin olive that I'm using today, but I don't think, again, that matters too much as long as it's greenish, but also the pearl works too. And then I think I put Arctic fox, but I also sometimes I have this raccoon, and basically looks and feels the same. So I'll be using a little bit of that. And then for the heads, the easiest thing to get a hold of is these bait fish heads from Fish Skulls. But I kind of wanted to do this to feed, probably one of the reasons why I think it works very well is the heads that I have from Drop Jaw. There's a company called Drop Jaw Flies. So that's kind of their logo there. And they make these realistic painted heads. I'll show you a big one just because they're easier to see. So you can tell how those look kind of real. And I do like tying these patterns with one of those, only a smaller pinfish head. So the size head I'll be using is actually more like that. And you can get those online at Drop Jaw. They have a bunch of packages. They even have streamer packages where they'll sell you the material for everything, and then you can just tie the streamers yourself. He has a bunch of them. They're a lot of fun. But the bait head, these ones work just fine too.
Sarah, this is Jerry Chris.
Yeah.
Sarah, what Arctic fox are you using, tail or are you using body?
Body.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So first I'm just gonna go through the Chinese set. I've already set a couple aside, but I tend to just go through these and find 2 that are really gonna be very similar. So I have these 2 right here. And then I just kind of hold them up together at the tips and try and clean them up so that they're even, if that makes sense, so that they're the same size. So I kind of know what I'm working with. So once I've got that cleaned up like that, now I'm going to need to position this and glue this together so that I can shape the tail a little more. And I think there's a few ways to do this. I started with super glue because it's really fast, but it makes a little kind of a white mark on the tail that I don't love. So the thing that I think is the most durable is this liquid fusion, but it takes a while to dry. So the thing that I've kind of done to combat both of those things is I'm using a little bit of the UV cure to kind of temporarily or kind of get it together so I can work with it. And then I can dab it with the fusion and let it set overnight. And then it's really indestructible because that fusion, I mean, I've had caught multiple fish and they, you know, they're ripping at it and then the fly is still together. So I'm really just going to take and put, you know, like an inch down or so, a little mark, you know, a little dab of this stuff. And I'm going to just make sure I lay the feather directly on top of it and put them together and cure them. Get them where I want them. Probably put just a little more on too to make sure that I stay there. All right, so now these are kind of, you know, I can work with them a little more. They're not going to come apart. I haven't fished with these like this, so I don't think that I don't think it would stay together in the water as great as it would with the liquid fusion. That stuff's really indestructible, but at least for working on the bench. So depending on the saddle hackle, I mean, this doesn't actually look too bad to me, but what I usually do now is just try to do a little trim up to make it look more like a tail. And I do like the bent shaft for these so I can kind of get in. But I'm basically just going to come in here and take off a little bit and cut it at a taper. So like get that little tail look. See that? And I'll do it on the other side too. You can tell that it's just, I'll probably go a little lower on that one. Get more of that tail taper. And then on the end, we'll just come in and kind of take out a little midsection. Leave a little more of a spacing. Use my micro tips for that. So I have a tail set up here and that's kind of ready to go. I'll set that aside. I'm going to dabble a little glue so while we're doing the rest of the fly, it can really set in. And again, it's just the same thing we did with the clear cure. Just kind of rub a little in. All right, I'll let that dry. So, I mean, I tend to tie with white thread because the lesson that I got from Spirit River before they were sold to Hairline was that, you know, white contains all of the color spectrum and it's going to illuminate any color that you put over it, especially when it comes to dubbing. So I kind of keep that in mind because if I'm tying with black and then I put olive on, I am inadvertently dimming some of that color. And, you know, visibility underwater, I mean, fish smell and feel vibration a lot further than they see. So it's kind of one of the, I don't want to diminish any of that since it's already something that they don't do as well, you know, as like I said, smelling or feeling vibration. So build up a little body here. I think the key to any fly is just keeping everything really clean. So as far as keeping the chenille clean, I just like to peel off a little of the material so that I make sure that it's just a flat piece of string when I tie it in. That way the body stays the same taper and it doesn't get too fat. Throw some of this sparkle brush on the end too. Honestly, somebody could find a way to like come up with a system for storing these properly. I swear. It's like once I open the pack, they're just in a ball and they're not flat and beautiful, and all those EP fibers, that's food for thought. The storage system for all those fibers would be money. Okay, so I'm just gonna run this up, make a little body with it. Just try and keep the same spacing between the white stuff in the middle, so it comes out the same. And then here, just like I'll usually kind of put the head on and kind of double check as I go. Oh, I better stick the, I have to get a different one. Okay, that's funny. Good, so make sure I don't go too far up and leave plenty of room for gluing that on. And then this one, I'm just gonna kind of palmer it and I don't want to wrap it too tight, just trying to get a little bit of sparkle in the body. So probably only gonna wrap it about 3 times total around the whole thing. I need new jaws in my vise so bad. It's getting to be an issue. So if you haven't seen these before, I really like these. These are micro tip scissors by Dr. Slick, but what I love is that right below that is a wire cutter, because I don't know about you, but I am like not gonna put these down to grab another thing to cut my wires, and I know that's bad, but I don't want to take the time. So I've had a habit in the past of ruining my scissors that way, and it's nice I don't have to do that anymore. These are doing. Now I'm going to take the tail and I'm basically just going to place it on either side here and tie it in. Probably need to scoot back just a touch because I'm not leaving room for the head. All right. We're starting to get a little shape there. So next I got the olive bunny rabbit. Kind of throw that on top. I mean, you can always take more off, so I usually start a little long, if anything. So that's probably too long for me, but I'm worried about cutting it too short. So kind of start taking a little off until I think the taper looks nicer. It's getting close. Let me take off just a touch more. All right. So next, we'll go with the barred olive. Make like a little gill plate. This is like a wrap, and I've never used this stuff as a wrap before yet. I just haven't done it. So just take a little piece, with maybe 20 fibers on it or so. And I'm literally just gonna stack it, basically. Hand stack it. I suppose you could just trim it too. And kind of throw that on the outside. So I have a little, that might actually be a few too many. So, I mean, the last thing I'm doing here is just putting a little belly on this thing and then slapping the head on. So, actually pretty easy. Almost feel like a husky. If somebody had a husky, that might be a good material to use too, is some, or like a white wolf doggy material. Try and get some of that under fur out so it doesn't clog up the head too much. And I mean, that's kind of all there is to it. We got to glue the head on here. I think I might have to pick a different head too. So there's like with the baked fish skull. See that? You can end up I'm not gonna glue that one on because I'm gonna glue the other one on, but you can end up just gluing some eyes on either side. And you have a pretty deadly streamer there. But we'll glue one of the other heads on. I really need a new desk. Organized. Sure it fits before I stick them on there permanently. Fits too good, doesn't want to come off now. Okay. So again, the liquid fusion is what I use for all this, and it's just, it absolutely will not come off once you glue it. So blessing and a curse. Oh, and it just dropped it. And then once you get the head on, let's see, where's my little, sure that you're not leaving any glue and just making sure that it's on enough. Always stick that on there. And then once it's on, I kind of want to make sure that everything's just sitting where I want it to sit when the glue dries, because that will matter. Any questions? Quiet crowd tonight.
When you made the, Sarah, this is Jerry, when you put the feathers together for the tail,
Yeah.
are they concave sides together or
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so yes, concave sides together, because then they kind of naturally kind of want to come in like this,
okay,
you know, and that's one thing where it's, I mean, it's like anything in fly tying. I mean, I think we all tend to buy feathers that we can never use, right? Like we buy a pack of feathers
Yeah.
and then we go through the feathers and we're like, oh, cool, I got 6 out of that one. Awesome. You know, it's like, so, and then, you know, I don't know, I have like a whole set of, that's like my fly tying stuff for the kids. It's, you know, all.
What's the name of the skulls?
So the realistic looking ones, like these are drop jaw, DROP jaw. I'll just type it on here. Drop jaw, and that's their website too. And they have all different sizes. And then the fish skulls, these you can get like on hairline. And those are just bait heads, bait fish heads.
Thank
They
you.
come in a few different colors. Yeah.
Sarah, I'm looking at the drop jaw site and
Mhm.
they have a lot of choices. I mean, what, any particular one that you like?
So yeah, so on these ones, it's funny because I tried this one size up on several patterns and never got bit. So these are these heads on this particular pattern, and I don't know if that was just circumstance or not, but I stopped making them like that, you know, because I tried a couple. So the pinhead, you can see the pinhead is much smaller. So
is
these
it
ones are,
heavier? Is it just heavier?
no, they're like fiberglass composite. They're super light, which is one thing I like about them because I just as I continue to fly fish, for whatever reason, I really don't use weighted flies anymore. I on occasion I do, but I tend to have a weighted line and a shorter leader, and that's how I like to fish my weighted, a
Yeah.
fly on the bottom. So,
Yeah.
and
Do you have a way to show us that wet,
show you what?
the fly wet? Is there a way you can do that?
Ooh. Well, let's see if I can. I mean, I can go get a bowl of some
Yeah, I'd like to
sort.
see what it looks like wet, because that's.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I had a video of that.
It's a good idea.
Well, when I demo, I always have a jar of water or the tank with the mirror in it. So,
Hmm.
yeah, that's neat. I like that.
It's very fishy. Looks like a fish to me.
Sherry, did she say she was going to send out a photo and instructions for tying?
Well, she's going to send us a photo of the fly because to go with the recipe.
Right.
And then so I can send it out, as an amended handout. I didn't
Great.
have we didn't have a picture of it, so I put it embedded it in the email so I can send out.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna see if this will work.
Did you go fishing?
Eric's on the river somewhere right now. I don't know where he is. I think he came home, but he went out and scouted out the Metolius today.
This would be a great fly for that.
Yeah, for bull trout, maybe, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys should read the FFI Fly Fisher magazine that just came out. There's some great articles in it. Oh my gosh, I got kind of caught up in reading that, and it was really good stuff this time.
Okay, I have a bowl of water. I don't know
Oh,
if this is
look
gonna,
at that.
maybe I might make a mess, but he hangs pretty true. And then,
Yeah.
like obviously he's not moving right now, so
Yeah. Just hold it up out of the water. Hold it. Yeah. Just hold it up out of the water.
You mean like this?
Yeah. There we
There
go.
you go.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. That's
I'm like, I don't have one of those flow tanks, but I'm gonna try my best to make one right now.
no, but that,
I thought you
no,
meant
just holding it up wet is good enough to really show some. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I
But
don't
it's
use
like-
streamers a lot. How
Yeah.
would you fish a streamer?
So I do a few things. I'm not like, I don't think I have like, I mean, you guys live in Central Oregon, so it's like, or a lot of, Sherry. I don't feel like I have as much opportunity to use them, but I definitely take like some trips, in the fall when it's more of like streamer time, or a lot of times I'll use them in the morning, or even if I just come to like a really deep pool, if it's just really deep run, I will, if I will throw across the run and run through it, if I'm on the, if the water's running away from me, if I'm at the top of the run, I'll throw it way down, or even let it dead drift and strip it back in. So that's really effective. That's probably I've caught them on the dead drift on these probably 3 times. So not a lot, but I'll usually toss it as far as I can, let it kind of sink, float a little further, and then just give it the short strip on the way in, and it usually gets hammered pretty good. So
you're using a floating line with a short leader?
I use a sink tip with
Okay.
like a 3-foot or 4-foot leader. So it is off the ground, you know, the sink tip's kind of here, and then this is probably just hanging off the ground a hair.
Sarah, do you ever make dubbing brushes to go with some of these big flies?
You know, I have I have like a dubbing brush maker thing downstairs, and I'll, you know, it's like maybe once a year I'll get into it and make a bunch of them, and then I just don't. You
Mhm.
know, it's kind of a process that you know, is just kind of messy, and you get everything out, and it's fine, which is fine. Like, again, back to where I don't know where to store this stuff. Like, if somebody could come up with a way to store some of that stuff a little better, I feel like, because it's like I get the package from EP, and after I open it one time, like in any of this stuff, it's like one time, I'm like, now what? Now what? So,
Have you tried cutting a little hole in the side of the packet and only pulling out what you want?
like in the side, like in the middle.
Well, up near one end.
Well, so right. So like if I do this, it just becomes this like,
Pulls all the rest of the stuff with you.
yeah. It's like I literally, this keeps me up at night.
You
I
know,
wanna
there
get-
used to be a company that made plastic bags with Ziplocs at both ends. So you'd always
That's
be
a
able to
good
pull
idea.
the things through.
Well,
We
that's what I
ordered
did.
some of those, but they don't make them anymore.
Oh yeah, is I'll just kind of cut it so I can pull through on a corner and push it back. But it's like, I don't know. I'm like, there's got to be a way to store these to keep them from, because after you've had these, I feel like even in here, they start to kind of get, I don't know, inside, they're just not as straight, you know, they kind of get all ratty and.
Well, there's different size tubes, the kind that are clear, and then they have the two rubber ends on them.
Mhm.
And you can buy them in different sizes. I think Al shipped some of his stuff like that for thread.
Oh, okay.
Al, you want to tell us where you get those tubes?
You get them from my website, btsflyfishing.com.
Plug
Oh,
it.
I'm so surprised. No, that's not a planned deal. You know, but that's what I use for all of my sparkle, flash, anything with long fibers. Once I open the pack, I stick it in one of those long tubes,
Good
and
idea.
they're
Yeah,
different size around too. There's some big.
Here's the ones
that one.
like that I use. These aren't very thick, but you know, you can pull them out.
Put it up to the camera, Jim.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to where I can grab it.
Like I have a-
There. Now you can see Jim.
Now,
Yes.
these are the ones that come out, you know, now one thing you can do if they're not done already, you can take a zip tie
Yeah.
and put
Somebody's got
the
a.
zip tie at one end.
Hmm.
And that holds them all like that. And then you can pull
Yeah.
it out, cut what you want, and then you can just zip them back in.
I'm
And
a
these
huge
come-
fan of the zip tie.
You know, you can get them in much larger diameters. This one's for thread wire size, but
Okay.
and it really keeps them nice.
That is actually pretty nice. I'm gonna have to get some.
Yeah, and then when you want to put it back in, you just, you know, I've got two of them in here. That's why usually you don't want to put two of them in the same. But
Yeah, that
it's
makes
easy
sense.
enough to put them back in. Just put them together and
Put it up in
Al
front of the
sells
camera.
these. He's got a little different, I think, don't you have black tips on yours, Al?
Yeah, I
The
do,
plugs at
Jim.
the end?
But they all work the same, and one of the
Yeah.
cool things about yours or what we sell or whatever is you're always pushing stuff in. You're not having to try to pull it back through because you can open either end and slide it on through.
So there you go, Sarah
Yeah.
Joe.
Then it's
Cute.
back in.
That's what I need.
That's what worked so well about those bags with the Ziplocs at both ends. You could
Yeah.
always pull out. You're never pushing stuff
I tried
back
to-
in kind of against the bag.
That's how it gets screwed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use tubes. The tubes like that for the rabbit or squirrel tail. Just
Oh,
the-
yeah.
And then the other thing is I've got all my floss in IKEA drawers, and I just
Can
lay them
anybody
flat.
see this? There's one, that's a brown trout from the Oahe caught on that streamer.
What? That is
See
a
that?
big fish.
That was a pretty good one. That was like a little morning run, deep pool. Like, just,
Excellent.
it took me a while to find that. I was like, I know I have a picture of me. And they really work really well. Like, I don't know if that even matters, but like on all the ponds, like we don't have trout, all of our ponds are stock trout because we don't have that around here. We're all just coastal waters. But whenever I get, kind of hard up in June, I take my kayak out and it's just, I've actually caught them on that thing. I like this fly a lot because for beginners, I think the fly is very realistic with the head. And I think it helps them, like you don't have to have great presentation. I've had this over the side of my boat trying to untangle my line and got hit, and I'm like, what has happened? Oh my God, I have a fish on, it's like, and I'm just like the flies in the water 8 inches down, dead hanging, and I'm just messing with my line and fish hits it. So I like the possibility of like, some kids or somebody who maybe isn't going to present it well, beginner, whatever, to have an opportunity to get bit on it,
Oh, do you
And
have another
experienced
fly?
people, you can get the hogs, right? You can
Oh, yeah.
totally get on try to get a big boy.
Do you have another fly?
I mean, you want to tie something else? What do you want to tie?
I don't know.
Bait fish? Been
Or you
tying some
could-
bait fish. I can tie that again.
You could give
You
us
want-
some, I'm going to put you on the spot. Sarah Joe's our new vice president of the Oregon Council. And our new president, Stephen and Sarah Joe, have been talking about what they want to do, where they want to go. And I'm excited about the whole thing because it looks like you guys are going to work really closer together and figure out some really good new things, especially with conservation for our council to be doing.
So there's I don't want to misspeak on the organization, but it's like, I want to say it's like coastal conservation something. Do you know who I'm talking about? You know who? So I'm like, just, Stephen and I ended up going fishing together, but a friend of mine who lives up there, who is a guide, was like, hey, I'll just float you guys on the LC. I'm like, okay, sounds great. So I go to my friend's house. I go to meet up with my friend. He's staying with another guy because we tandem floated, and his gal's the president of that club.
Oh,
Random, standing in her kitchen. She's like, well, I run a nonprofit. I'm like, really? Is it like a fishy one? She's like, yeah, it's cool. And I'm like, well, you'll probably be getting a letter from me at some point because I want everybody to work together to get something done. But, it was really nice talking to her because she had kind of a great idea. Because my idea was like, I really feel like we have all these conservation groups in Oregon, and like everybody's just doing their own thing. And like, that's nice. But I just strengthen numbers. Like if we're going to get something done, we need to all work together. So my thought was like, if we all kind of got together at the beginning of every year and chose one thing collectively that we wanted to do, like, no wild retention steelhead or whatever it was that we wanted to do that year, and just focus all of our efforts. Every club focus their efforts on it, conservation group, until we get it done. And so she kind of loved that idea. And she also said, you can lure them in with boat ramps. And I said, say what? She said, you can lure the people with boat ramps. She's like, if you do any sort of boat ramp project, she's like, everybody will be, as she said, it would just be as far as like, working on any sort of like donation product that we might do. She's like, if you put anything into boat ramps, people get on board and they want to kind of do other stuff and work together. So I kind of liked her idea, and I was like, I'm going to keep that in mind. Boat ramps seem to be a big issue, apparently.
Where are you located, Sarah?
So I'm in Coquille. I'm on the coast, basically, Bandon, Coquille, Oregon.
Oh, okay.
So we have, winter steelhead. We don't have any boat ramps here, so I guess I understand what she's saying.
Start there.
I know. I was like, we don't have any. You want a better boat ramp? We don't have any. But that's kind of the blessing and the curse here. It's actually really a struggle. Like last week, I'm like crying on the phone to the taxi man. I'm like, please just move my car. Just get a buddy and move my car so I can float by myself, because we don't have any shuttles, and I have my little kayak and I can sneak it in all these spots, which is great because it's untouched. But then the problem is there's no access, right? There's no
Hey,
real
Sarah
system.
Joe, regarding shuttles, have you tried the local taxi service?
No, that's what I was begging him. I was on the phone, like crying to the taxi service last week. I'm like, please just get a buddy, drive him out to this spot and move my car 3 miles. And he's like,
What I do
we'll
in
consider-
Montana with the taxi services is I make sure that they're available. I make the float, I call them from there with my cell phone, and they take me back to my truck.
So that's a great idea, except for we don't have any service where the float is. That's a major issue. Is most of those places where once you get fishing on the river, there's no service. So you can't call
Because
somebody.
you can't call to ask them to pick you up.
Right. So you have to kind of have it pre-moved. And so that's definitely a struggle down here, is there's no shuttles, and we have a couple boat ramps, but they're usually on the lower sections of the rivers. They're not for like putting in for drifting. You're
Well,
just
it sounds
sliding.
exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. We're hoping to, get some stuff done,
get some stuff done.
collectively get some stuff done. So.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I think we're going to be very successful. We're still transitioning, and we'll be working on that for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's-
It is
that's-
big. It's funny because like my friend who I told you, he's a caddy and a fly fisherman, and I think he's really passionate about conservation. So I've been trying to nudge him to, come help us,
yeah,
and
that's nudging works.
he always is like, why aren't you working faster? And I'm like, you don't understand, like, you don't get it. It takes a while to just transfer everything over. And
Oh, yeah. So I'm working very hard at organizing the stuff that makes it easier to follow. I have so many files, and trying to get all of them organized where you make sense of them for 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm feeling better now, so my success rate will be better.
yeah,
So,
100%. I think the Google Drive will be a good idea. That'll be
Yeah,
a nice
yeah,
little
it is.
spot to just get everything.
That
Yeah.
streamer pattern that you tied should work real good up at East Lake with a floating line with the sink tip, the way you fish it. But
Okay.
you just troll it off. There's a hot spring area at one end of that lake. And there's a very vast elodea, or basically it's all sorts of plant growth along the bottom. And the big browns hang off about 10 or 15 feet from that, waiting for the smaller fish to make the mistake of coming out. And that would be a
Okay.
great place for that.
I'm writing this down. I'm like, hold on.
Well, East Lake is one of our favorite spots to fish, especially when I'm doing most of my fishing from a boat now. So get your campsites early as soon as you can, because we've got the RV rush coming in since COVID. So the campsites are gonna fill up pretty fast. So pick your dates and get your spot. Of course, there's always go in for a day and back out. But Sarah, don't you have a relative that lives in this area?
In Bend.
Yeah.
My sister lives in Eugene.
Oh,
But I
okay.
have some friends that live in Bend. Yeah, I have a few friends over there. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, does anybody have any questions or final say hellos? Just remember, we're not going to have a class on February 10th. That's being moved to the end of the presentations at the end of the series. So I'll get this video on YouTube as soon as possible.
Sarah
Alright.
Joe, this is Doug and Sisters. Thanks so much for taking the time to do that. Very exciting pattern.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.